Whatever she said, did my whining come through the speaker there? Sorry.
No,
Are we
we heard no
started?
whine. I'm not recording it.
All right.
Just making sure that I'm tracking on how we're moving today, because I know I was with me being in the hospital yesterday, kind of, made things look a little different.
All right. Well, EI has offered the suggestion that we do Q&A on Iyami today. I think that sounds like a plan.
No, Baba. No, Baba. Let Camilla do her class.
Oh, she's going to do it. Sorry, my mistake.
Right there. You can see her.
You can't see me, Papa?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Nobody told me you were doing it today. My mistake.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Because I know I was like I was saying, I was in the hospital yesterday, and so that kind of threw everything off. So I apologize. I should have reached out to you this morning.
How are you feeling today?
I'm a little better.
Well, that's really good. When you're ready, I'll introduce you.
Okay. Let me start the recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Agbo Ato, blessing of long life, Akabo, welcome. Adupwe Ori Egun. We thank the ancestors for their blessing. Ire Lona Alafia, I actually think that prayer has helped. The hostilities seem to have ended in the Middle East. Let's continue to pray that that remains so. We're continuing our series on Iyami. We've so far spoken about kind of the philosophical function of women in traditional Yoruba culture, gender equity and ideas like that. Today, I believe Iya is going to speak on some of the healing methodologies for the mothers, and then we're going to do at least a couple of. We've actually got one more session on theology, and then we're going to start diving into the practical.
Sorry, guys. There's like an echo. Let me figure out what's happening and bring it back. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry, guys. All right, let me rev this up. It was like echoing, so. Give me 1 second, guys.
Recording in progress.
Let me say something. Let me just add to that. For those who don't know, Iya changed the way sexual assault cases are investigated in the Army for the better by a lot. It used to be that the commanding officers had veto over her investigations. It's no longer true. It's a huge milestone on behalf of women. Iya's a true American hero. We're grateful for the hard work that involved because it was at no small challenge to her well-being, believe me. Ashe.
Ashe. Multiply. He always trying to get me all choked up and sappy and stuff. I'm a soldier, so don't y'all forget it. Don't be falling into his madness. All right. And to finish that. Okay. We ain't gonna start that one. I'm Army.
Excuse me. Let me start out too. Right on. I'm Army. Way to go. Thank you, Mama.
Oh God. Oh. Okay, and so I do have my doctoral degree in organizational leadership and behavior, where a lot of my concentration was in how the mind works, how people move with trauma within mainly corporate settings. But I find that it is more important to get those people on an individual basis first before they kind of get in that environment, because then they can figure out how to move within those things. And so today our conversation is going to be about remembering your divine alignment, right? And so remembering, before we even get started into any other conversations, what I want to do is set some ground rules, if you will. And I know some people may say, oh, well, it's streaming, da 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 da, but we're still going to set the ground rules. And I am sure that Genesis, even though she's streaming, she will monitor that part of the conversation to make sure that it stays within what we're doing, right? And so what I want everyone to do, if you can, if you're in a position to do so, is to really allow yourself to relax, to be present, right? To be present. Take that deep breath. And so our group agreements are going to be to create emotional safety within this space today. So there's no judgment. There's no fixing. Okay. There's no comparison. There's no comparison. It's the killer of all joy. So we're not doing that. There's no pressure to share. Okay. The confidentiality. And if you are open, the openness. I will be as open as I can within the conversation, within my own experiences, as we continue to move through this conversation. And so with that understanding and with that knowing, the first thing we're going to look at is what one of the problems, right, can be. Since we are looking at our divine alignment within this work and considering Iyami, right? And that is disconnection. So I want you to think about, what is your definition of that word disconnection? And when you think about your work and your place with Iyami, with the Orisha, Ifa itself, right? What are we doing to be fully connected? I saw a video, and I can't remember the brother's name, but he's been in the classes a couple of times. And he asked a very relevant question. It was very palpable. He asked, are you practicing Ifa, or practicing your spirituality, or are you living it? And so as we look at this disconnection, this problem of being disconnected from the mothers, right? Add in there, so am I practicing? Practicing, i.e., I do my offerings. I read a few books so that I can have an intelligent conversation, right, around the topic. Or are we living it? And I'm going to leave it up to you to define what living it looks like for you, because it's different for all of us, right? So how do we become disconnected? And now we hone it in, since these topic is about Iyami, we're honing it into, how did we get disconnected from the mothers, from Iyami, right? That falls into our emotional conditioning. So now this conversation is pushing us and asking us to look at our emotional conditioning. What are your inherited beliefs about Iyami, the mothers, right? What are your trauma patterns? Your performance identity? Are you still in survival mode? Or is that survival mode like, over here you can relax a little bit, but over here, all the walls are up, right? When it comes to Iyami and the mothers, are you living a fear-based reality in connecting with them, in interacting with that energy? Are you a people pleaser? Right? What is your emotional suppression? And finally, are you here, or are you asking about participating in the works of the mothers, the Iyami, right? Chasing external validation. So we find that many people are functioning, but not aligned. Papa wrote in one of his books, Ori, that the heart can't do what the head don't accept. Right? So that's where the alignment comes in. So asking ourselves in this space of recognizing the disconnection, why am I here? What am I doing it for? And when we talk about this disconnection, one of the things that's actually coming up for me right now is that relationship is personal. And I know my mother Ifa Jalabi, Ia Queen, Chief Ashola. They've mentioned on several occasions how it's important for us to build a personal relationship with the mothers. So as we're looking at this piece about disconnection, right? What is causing, what disconnection is happening within you based upon the pieces that I mentioned earlier that is affecting, if you will, your ability to create a connection, an alignment, a personal connection and alignment with the mothers. Right? So I'll give some example of emotional conditioning, right? Because that's kind of the part of us being disconnected from the mothers. And this will give you an opportunity to begin to recognize where you are in this space and in this conversation, right? So one example is love and approval conditioning, excuse me. Love and approval conditioning. Right? Some of us have learned like early that love was conditional. If you love me, you'll do this. If you love me, you'll do that. Right? And a part of that is because we only received affection when we performed well. Not just performed, but we performed well. Right? You behaved properly. You stayed quiet. You achieved something, or you made others feel comfortable. And so we find that those are important to look at, because looking at the condition of women in this society, right? A lot of things are being put in place to make us be quiet, to stifle our voices. You don't get good things. You don't get hugs. You don't get love from, your partners, or, compliments from your coworkers or your boss, unless you are performing well and you don't make them uncomfortable. Now, how does that affect us? Well, it goes back to, what is it that you believe about the mothers? And a lot of information that's being shared now is fear-based, right? Fear-based. So when you ask questions about, how do I astral travel? How do I do this? How do I do that? Even with the masters that we have in this community, because a lot of us still are in that space of people pleasing. We're still in a space of, over giving, wanting to be approved, wanting to be, all of these things. And don't get me wrong, right? Some of these things are innately inherent in us because we're human, right? None of us want to be walking around and know that all the people that are around us don't like us, right? But I want us to be able to really like go below the surface of those ideas. Because if we're people pleasing, it's going to be difficult for us to build that personal connection with the mothers, so that no matter what's happening in our personal lives, we can come together do the work, and then move on about our daily lives. Right? Now, what does emotional suppression looks like? Now, some people grow up in environments where emotions were unsafe. So ask yourself, do you fall into that category? Where your emotions, where showing emotions was unsafe. Crying was a weakness. Anger was punished. Vulnerability was ignored. And fear had no space. Right? So when we are falling in that space, so what happens? Okay. The child, you, I, when we were children, right? If that was our experience, we learned don't feel, don't express, and don't be too much. And now, hearing that, right? Because a lot of this work, most of this work, right, is also about not us just healing ourselves, but creating examples so that those around us can do the same. So that the children are not emotionally suppressed. Right? As an adult, here's your example of whether or not you're in that space as an adult. Emotional numbness, shut down responses, anxiety, difficulty expressing your needs, disconnection from your intuition. And for us for doing this work with the mothers, with Iyami, right? That is a large part of the work, is being able to tap into your intuition so that you can hear when they whisper, that they don't have to yell and hit you upside the head and all the things, right? Now, if you are in a space where you're in survival identity, right? Sometimes people become hyper independent, not because they're strong. And I use that word loosely, I really hate it. But because they learned nobody was coming to help them. Right? Now, I know last week when we had the conversation, we brought up the idea, the concept that, all these identities, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, and all the things, they're not coming. They're not coming to save you. We have to do the work, right? So looking at this from this human space of what it looks like when we believe that no one is coming to help us. So we're always in survival mode. So when our elder mothers come to us and let us know that, okay, this is what we need to be doing, or maybe if you could shift it this way based upon what is happening, we get defensive because we're in survival mode. I'm not doing that because there's nobody here to help me. Nobody's coming. I got to do this myself. And so we push away those who have been put in place to support us because we grew up and came through an environment that didn't. So that can be a part of your disconnection, not having the capacity to get in a space where you can align yourself with the mothers, what they are asking you to do, to be able to tap into your intuition, to be able to come into a collective as women to make this world better, to make our community, to make our own home life. So like it's yourself, your home, your community, your city, your state, the world. Right? But if you're always in survival mode, or if you're emotionally suppressed and all of these, it's difficult to make that connection, to get that head and heart alignment with what the mothers are asking from us. Not just as a collective, but from you, me, as an individual first. It's important to build that relationship first, knowing that it's going to look different for each of us. Yes, there are some things that as we move on in this series, we're going to learn that just have to be done, right? We know that. But your personal interaction is yours. So that means that we have to check ourselves in all these spaces, because the elder mothers within this community can give us all the tools. They can invite us to all the events. But if we don't deal with our own stuff, then we're still behaving within those constructs that we've been conditioned in. Right? So with the survival identity, it becomes difficult, right? And this hits like really deep, because I still have to catch myself sometimes with that. I get really like, wait a minute, right? Difficulty receiving support, right? Ask yourself, do you have a hard time receiving support? Constant self-protection. Constant self-protection. Okay, Dr. Strong, what does that, Ian, what does that look like? Well, I found that when I was younger, my weight would fluctuate based upon when I got activated about an event that happened in my life, being, sexually assaulted, military sexual trauma, because in my mind, I had accepted that, oh, okay, you know what? In the groups that I was in, people had negative things to say for people that they assumed or felt like they were overweight. Right? So then I would say, well, you know what? Maybe if I, pick up a few pounds, over here, over there, I don't have to worry about nobody saying anything to me or trying to come at me. So ask yourself, where are you applying that type of thinking? Now, it may not be that result, but that type of thinking when it comes to interacting with the mothers, with the process, with the information that you have. And ask yourself, what are you protecting yourself from? And is it valid? Right? Fear-based conditioning. When a person expresses repeated pain, betrayal, instability, criticism, or trauma, the nervous system begins expecting danger. So ask yourself. So now I know there's some brothers in the room, but this conversation is to us as women. Fear-based conditioning. I even think I said it last week. That kind of came up in the conversation. What is your fear, right? When it comes to connecting with women? Because yes, it's important to have that personal connection with Iyami, with the mothers. But the reality is that as a collective of women, we can do so much more. So what is that fear? What is that fear? Name it. We have to name it. Why don't you have any female friends? And no, I'm not saying that you got to have sleepovers and da-da-da and all these things, but why don't you have any female friends? Why is it easy for you to say, I don't trust women? That's fear-based. Where did that fear come from? And not only that, when we begin to name these things and put a name to it and own that that's something that is within us, then we ask ourselves, what am I doing to perpetuate this? This work is about accountability. What am I doing to perpetuate this? Why don't I have any, friends, women who are considered peers to me? Why don't you have any female peers? Ask yourself that and own it. Because I believe this, because this happened when they did this. And when we begin to do that, as we crack open all of this, we also realize that they've bought into the same lie as well. And it's affected their behavior a little different than ours. There are conversations that I've had with my mother for Jollibee, for Jollibee, and things that we've shared. And I'm like, nah, that's me. I'm cutting that heifer head off. Ain't no way in the hell that's going to happen. You can forget that. And I'm going, and on and on and on. But the beautiful thing is that she always brings me back to myself. What do you mean, Chief? Why you want to cut a head off? When you know in the big scheme of things, trying to find a nice way to say this, we all getting stuck with no Vaseline. Right? So when your sister wrongs you, what's going on? What's up? Well, I mean, of course, you have to go through your process of coming down a little bit because, you don't want to try to cut a head off while you asking her what's going on, right? So get yourself together and allow yourself to find out what is happening with her. And then ask yourself, why am I so angry about that? Because that's another piece that we have to deal with in ourselves. Angry, hurt are two different things. Because I can be hurt, right? But if I hold on to it, it begins to fester into anger. That's putting yourself in a space of suffering. Right? Pain is going to happen. And so I'm going to say something right here that's probably going to sound way out there in left field. But here's the thing. If we hold on to an emotion about a particular behavior, especially as adults, longer than 90 seconds, we have made a choice to suffer. Hear what I'm saying. Am I always good at it? No. Tell you right now, I am not. But because I know that, you know, usually at the 2-3 minute part, I can kind of catch myself. But give yourself that grace, right? So those are some examples of emotional conditioning. And you ask yourself, okay, how does that affect how I interact with the energies of the Iyami, of the mothers, right? Because that's why we're having this conversation. Well, I know I'm doing most of the talking right now, but that's why we're covering these points. Now, I am going to ask everyone in this moment to take out a piece of paper, pencil if you have it. And ask yourself, and I want you to write down what comes up first. What emotional conditioning are you operating in on a daily basis? You write it down. I want you to take a deep breath, because that can be a lot, right? And now as you write it, you've written it down, you're owning it, taking that deep breath and releasing it. Now ask yourself, what does your soul need today? And now into segue in looking at what is it that you need today. You're asking yourself this. I'm going to take a few minutes to incorporate a system that I created, that I walk myself through constantly for different parts of my life, right? And it's the Bliss Life system. I wrote it, I created it, and all the things, right? And so now that we've looked at some contextual ideas around what is causing us to be disconnected from the mothers, What is causing us to be disconnected from our own personal intuition? What is causing us to be disconnected from each other as women? Right? And so what does bliss stand, what does it stand for? So on a generic basis, right, bliss is beliefs, love, intimacy, self-success, right? But in this context, right, we're going to look at belief/balance. Love is love, right? Intimacy/inner awareness, i.e., into me, I see, right? Self/spiritual alignment, and then success/service and self-expression. So when we look at bliss, beliefs, balance, right? That's alignment between the mind, body, spirit, emotions, and daily life. When we look at love, the first thing is self-love. Like, do I, me, you, us, do you really love yourself? And not love just in doing the things that make you feel good, make you feel some temporary happiness, but really love yourself. That inner awareness, intimacy, inner awareness, into me, I see. Do you have an intimate relationship? Do you have inner awareness to yourself first? Because if I can't apply these things to myself first, when it comes to other people, I'm just performing. I'm people pleasing. And in some instances, I'm losing myself. Self, spiritual alignment, connections to Olodumare, to the mothers, right? Source, divine truth, purpose, yourself, your spiritual alignment. Where are you with that? S, service, self-expression, success. Living authentically and sharing your gifts. Your gift could be singing, dancing, right? Reading, teaching, all the things. Papa brings this up a lot, and it's in it. I'm learning as I'm continuing to grow and expand that it's so paramount. It's so important. Can you share those gifts with your community, even when someone in the space that you don't really care for? Because that's what's important. Can we still tap into that energy? Can we let go of all our human foolishness, right? Can we let that go in order to show up and do what needs to be done for the community? So now that I've given you like a short synopsis of each one of those, we'll kind of go back up. So we're looking at balance. What happens when balance is missing? Right? And so we know that with balance, it falls in that same category with the B, bliss, beliefs, balance. What happens when that's missing? I.e., what happens when the belief that you have about the mothers, about women, is not balanced when it comes to what the mothers is asking us to do or asking you to do personally? Right? Some examples: we become overwhelmed, burnout, emotional chaos, reactive behavior. I'm not showing up because I don't like Chief Alona Otun. She is just too much. Right? That creates that imbalance. And then ask yourself, what belief do you have that supports that feeling? That emotion that is showing up every time you see Falana Otun. What is that about? Own it. Go to your elders for support. And maybe even have a conversation. Because if it's something that you believe that she did to wrong you, if you haven't had a conversation with her, she probably don't even know. So it creates that imbalance. Right? So what does balance feel like in this space? Right? When we're talking about the mothers, when we're talking about women being in community, what does that balance feels like? Well, for me, for what I found is that it's groundedness, it's clarity, right? It's emotional steadiness, and it's spaciousness. Ooh, spaciousness. What does that? That means we can hold space for our sister, so that she can, step into what she needs to step in to facilitate her own healing. Right? We have to be willing to facilitate our own healing with the tools that we've been given. So now I'll ask a question. And if the answer is no, just send me a private message. Right? So how does this resonate? Right? Where do you see this in your life? What stood out to you? Anybody want to share? I'll take one or two, so then we can go to the next.
Yeah, this is so beautiful. I am so proud of you. Listen, everybody, listen. This started off weird because I didn't know if she was going to be able to do it because she was in the hospital, and of course we're going to step in and make sure that everything keeps running as best we can. But oh my God, how amazing that come out of the hospital and still run and rock and roll. So we have to give her a really big applaud for being able to stand up and move forward and keep going and keep driving. She knows I push like that, and so it's and for this class, because it's so important that we get a cohesiveness. It's the whole problem. We're not cohesive, and we need to be able to hold each other's hand and be able to recognize, say, such and such and so. She may not be in her best today, but that's okay. step in for your sisters and hold their space until they can stand again. We have to lock arms. I've always said it and I still believe it. We need to lock arms so that we'll be able to do what we need to do as a community. This helps not only women, but it helps men. It helps our children. It helps motivate everybody to see a cohesion that's necessary. It doesn't matter how we feel. It doesn't matter whether we don't like Sally Sue or Agnes. It doesn't matter. Those things are not important. And so this is a really important session of class that helps us recognize that whatever our weaknesses are, and we all have them, whatever they are, we still need to be able to stand in our space and recognize we're a family. You don't have to be perfect. You can everybody can look in their own families and find somebody who, Lord knows, turn their hair gray, but they're still family. And so as family, they're still there. We need to be able to do this and recognize each other as a community, as a complete family, so that no matter what our weaknesses and our strength, nobody can break that link in our chain of family. No one should be able to break that. Okay. We can fuss, we can argue, we can not be happy with one another, but no one outside of the family should be able to come in and start any kind of harassment or any kind of disloyalty, and then loyalty is not an issue, but it's an issue of family, of being there for each other, no matter what we personally believe and how we personally feel. It is important that we get to this, and in that way, Iyami will be strong, because then women can work together to do women's work, and Ajay will be there for us. So I'm really proud, and I'm going to step back. Thank you so much for this class.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Monica. I think that is very important for us to recognize, right? Because here's the thing, we can forgive, right? You can forgive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a person is going to be in your actual, space all the time, right? But so like this is something like a catch-22, right? Because when we're talking about Iyami, as Mother just mentioned, we can't allow anything to break that link, to break that chain as women. We have to be willing to have the conversation. And yes, there may be times when, because of whatever's happened, you know what? I can still show up. If Chief Alona O'Toole is in the room, we can do women's work, da-da-da-da-da. But I know that because of how she moves, how she believes, and all these other things, that I'm not going to force myself to have her to come over to dinner or even the cookout. And that is absolutely okay, because in all of this, it's still important for you to take care of yourself and facilitate your own healing. But being able to do that without denigrating each other in all the things. Like, that's where the maturity comes in. That's where that switch of deep, I'm woman enough to admit that if it's something as simple as, you know what, I don't like it when she wears yellow lipstick. And yes, I'm using really superficial things, right? But I'm woman enough to admit that That just irks me. So I'm going to just do what I need to do my work, do my cleansing. So when I step into the space of what we have to do for women's work, I can do that. And her yellow lipstick don't mean nothing to me. Right? And then you step out and go on about your life. But when we're looking at this as a spiritual context, it is very important, in my own humble opinion, and based on the way I've been checked in my foolishness, right? That we got to do the work. Why? Asking myself, why are you upset about this? And is it really relevant to the work that we're doing right now? And if it is not, you let it sit outside the door. Right? Let it sit outside the door. That foolishness does not come inside here. Yes, Miss Shatoya. And this will be our last question so we can go to the next.
I just had to say gratitude for that last comment that you made, because what immediately popped into my head was I'm not responsible for anyone else's undignified behavior, but I am responsible for how I show up in all spaces at all times. So if that is my focus, then I get to put my heart there, if you will, right? And I get to show up as the Iyami has intended for me to show up. So you saying that really set a resonance in me, and not that I hadn't resonated with anything else, but it was through my own personal experiences, like right now in the moment, y'all don't even understand I say in the moment, of being put in a opportunity where I can show up in that way. So every chance, every challenge that we come up against, should I say, then that is our opportunity to show up in that way. And so thank you for that. And then I popped in right as you were talking about spiritual alignment and do I love myself and those sort of things. So I'm going to go back and listen to what you said before that. But I did want to say thank you. And as Omo, I did not know that you were in the hospital. Excuse me, everybody. We got a private conversation for a second. I didn't know you were in the hospital. And so I would have been called you, but I love you. And I'm going to check on you later.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Great. Wonderful.
Yeah, I know you said no more questions, but I wanted to make an observation. One of the things that can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed in Ode Ramo, there's a small, it's like a small house. It's more like a hut that is used for ritual. And they get a lot of people in a small space. The expectation that everybody will be totally focused on what we're doing. And if they're not, they leave. And no shame, no blame. Nobody asks them why they left. Nobody has an attitude. If you can't focus on the thing we're doing, then you excuse yourself. And then when you've gotten over the trauma of seeing somebody in yellow lipstick, then you shake it off and come back into the room, and it's profoundly effective, because you understand that anytime somebody upsets you, you're violating the first taboo of Ifa, make no judgments. If people really understood that, it would change the world. Make no judgments. That doesn't mean make no judgments, but it's all right to tell people who fall off the butthead because we need to protect the world from his foolishness. And that's okay. No, it means no judgment.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can't make boundaries either. You can't come into the room if you're not focused. You can go somewhere else and get drunk. You can't do it here. There's no judgment involved in making collective rules that facilitate the accomplishment of a thing. Enough of that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. And so now we're moving to a space where, so we've looked at the possible causes, if you will, of being disconnected. We've looked at if we apply and understand the concepts of the bliss life system, if you will. Bliss is really about you taking that acronym and applying it to, i.e., this particular topic, right? And seeing where you really are with balance, alignment, self-awareness, and all of those things that bliss stands for in this context, right? So now that we've somewhat, hopefully, when I ask you to take out the paper and everything, that you all did write down what came up for you based upon the questions, what I'm going to do now is give us the opportunity to do what I am naming a emotional release and reconnection, right? So emotional release and reconnection. And so if you're in a space where you can, right, I want you to sit. You can lay down if that's more comfortable for you, but have your feet on the floor. If you can take your shoes off where you can actually feel the floor, and use your imagination, if you will, to imagine dirt, the ground, the earth, right? And if you're comfortable, I want you to close your eyes, because this piece of the conversation is about emotional release and reconnection, i.e., if I am in a space where I operate in excessive independence, right? And I'm going to ask, the request is that you breathe in the support of the mothers. You breathe in that never ending love and support. And you breathe out whatever that thing that you wrote on your paper that is causing you to disconnect. Allow yourself to release the heaviness of it. Allowing yourself to reconnect to your inner truth. Meeting your higher self. Forgiving yourself. Taking a deep breath. And release it slow. See yourself walking through a forest. And there's a soft glow of light. That's beaming down on you. It's warm. And you feel yourself being wrapped in the love of the mothers. And as you're walking and you're breathing in and you're breathing out, you're releasing the burdens one by one. You're releasing the people pleasing. You're releasing the hyper independence. You're releasing the distrust. You're releasing the beliefs that you have recognized that are actually untrue, and they do not support your higher good. And in this release, you now be allowing yourself to meet your wiser self, your spirit self. This release allows you to hear your inner guidance. You take that another deep breath in the nose, out the mouth, to release the chaos, the clutter, the confusion. Now, as you're continuing to walk through this forest, you're coming into a wide open clearing. And you see all the beautiful women waiting to receive you, to hold you up, to support you, to remind you of who you are. See them, feel them as you continue to walk into the mass of those women. You feel the support. You feel the lightness of releasing all the things that no longer serve. Now take another deep breath. Hold it. And release it slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, as you begin to come back into the space, and you receive this gift from the mothers. With your toes, with your fingers. And allow yourself to come back into this space. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so now, as we get ready to come to a close, is that before I go into the idea of embodiment and daily practice, does anybody want to share anything that came up? Was a question? 5, 4, 3, 2. Very good. So now embodiment and daily practice.
Chief, pardon me.
Yes.
There was a question that came up just as you were in transition from Awa Funtunde.
Okay, what's the question?
How can one address not having a loving or supportive mother throughout one's life and how it relates to Iyami work?
Okay, so this is going to sound really harsh from a human perspective. Because here's the thing. One thing I had to come to terms with, right? So one, from my work and what I truly believe in my heart, forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is giving up the hope that anything could have been different. We hold on to the pain and the behaviors of not getting, not receiving, people not having the capacity to show up in the way that we feel that they should have, right? Because we believe it should have been some other way. And the truth of the matter is, most times, even when it is ugly as hell, what do I mean by that? That means the alcoholic, that means the drug addict, that means the prostitute, that means the abuse, all of it. Because what happens is, most of us as children, right, and we kind of carry it into our adult life, is that we never take on or actually look at what our mother's life was like, what she experienced, right? Because the reality is, a lot of the things that we experience, if we could get them to share, and we have to remember how our mothers were raised and conditioned. You don't talk about it, you don't complain about it. It happened to me, it happened to your grandmama, it happened to your great grandmama, and it happened to your great great grandmama who was in all these things. So it happened to us, and just because it happened to you don't make you special. And I know that sucks to hear, because you're like, well, you my mama, you supposed to. 9 times out of 10, they did the best they could with the information that they had. And I know that sucks. So now it's important for you to look at all of that, to really look at how you feel about it, and then ask yourself, what is it that you needed from your mother, your grandmother, whoever, and then begin to give it to yourself. I could be wrong, but with the work that I do and based upon my own experience, after about 25, all the decisions you make are yours, regardless to what your parents did. Because even children know right from wrong. The little ones, when they go into the cookie jar and you walk up to them and they got crumbs all over their face and the hand behind the back. So we innately have that. So what I would suggest is that, first of all, give me a call, send me a DM so we can take this conversation a little deeper. But the most important thing is releasing your mother, because you're an adult woman, releasing your mother from the responsibility of facilitating your healing.
I want
And
to
I
include
know that.
something.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, mother.
I want to include something in that. Every woman who has a baby doesn't make them a mother. The image of mother is a nurturing energy. Having the baby doesn't mean you're going to nurture the baby. That's a different energy. And I think we put preconditioned determinations of what a thing is. on a person. Abandonment is a personal issue. Everybody has come here because of a choice to come here. Our spirits chose these paths, and they didn't know when they chose the path what that entailed. But our spirits recognized that we were up for the task of experiencing all of these different kinds of unique experiences that would cause us to either grow or not grow. Okay, but it's up to us how we take those experiences. The energy of mother is more of a Yemaya energy than the energy of a woman who had a baby, which is an Oshun energy. There are two different kinds of energies. So we need to understand and not blame, like Chief was saying, a mother, a woman for bringing in or being the facilitator of giving a spirit an opportunity to experience this life. That's what the woman who had you did. She gave you the opportunity to experience the experiences you have. Now, whether she became the mother to that and nurtured you, that's a whole different energy, and that's a whole different kind of concept, which I think we've allowed the world to make it all combined into one single thing that it isn't there. It's not necessarily the case. The understanding of the word God originally, in my understanding, was generation, G for generation, O for operation, D for destruction. It is a triad that creates life coming into the world, the Oshun energy, nurturing the world, the Yemaya energy, and taking your last breath, going into your next cocoon phase. That's the Oya energy. And there are three different female energies that create this paradigm. And that's the thing that we don't seem to understand and recognize. But we need to be able to do that so that we can move forward, so we don't have these abandonment issues. Oh, why I don't have a mother? Yes, you do. The universe is your mother. The universe is your mother. Whether you accept that is on you, but the universe did this. So we have the opportunity to do these things. We have what's there. We have all of the tools and the things that we can do to move forward. We just got to pick them up and start using them. That's all I got to say.
Ashe, multiple mother. Genesis, is that? Sorry. Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Right. Mhm. Right, right. Mhm. Right, right, right. And so then with that, then you, now that you noticed it, you said it out loud, right? You owned it. So now you begin to look at how your life is set up to create a shift in that. So that you, right, you break that way of doing things within your line, right? Now have the opportunity to say, oh, wait a minute, okay, I get to do something different. I'm going to do something different. And when we do that, then your daughter will be doing something different. She won't be, having this same conversation, or she won't come to you and say, well, mom, if you had not of da 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 da, then I wouldn't da 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 da. Right. So you have the opportunity now to create something different, because now you've said it, you owned it, you know it's there. You now have the opportunity yourself, now to, am I willing to do something different? And so as we look at all of that, so how can we take this thing of bliss and integrate it into our daily lives, right? And it's not something that where you're going to be sitting cross-legged for an hour or any of these things. This is literally, taking 3 to 5 minutes. You can even do it while you're brushing your teeth, right? To go through and ask yourself, am I living in a space of balance? Am I loving myself? Am I practicing healthy intimacy, inner awareness? And all of these things that we talked about, that the BLISS actually stands for, right? What does bliss, those that acronym, how are you moving in that space? And so how do we do that? How do we get that to become a part of our daily, way of doing things, right? So you can do breath work. And breath work, you don't have to, you can actually be able to be aware but centered, right? So like if you're on the bus, or however you move, or before you go to work, sit for a few minutes and just do that 4-7-8. All right, breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, breathe out 8. Do that breath work. Another thing that we really miss that is so powerful is the work of gratitude. Gratitude. So write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Like you can do that right now. Like really think about 3 things that you're grateful for. Do that in the morning. Do that before you lay down. So that's the last thing that's on your mind. You know what? I'm grateful that I made it through the day. I'm grateful that, I was able to drink fresh water. I'm grateful that I have people in my life who love me unconditionally. And in that loving me unconditionally, they also have the capacity to correct me when it's needed in love. Like, what are you grateful for? Set your intentions. And I know a lot of times we say, oh, the day is already long. I got to go to work. I got to and all the things. But if we could just take 2-3 minutes to really say out loud what we want our day to look like, that is so powerful. Because you allowed all the, the energy, the spirits, the divine essence, your higher self know what you want your day to look like. And they will support you in that. I.e., that's their job. Stop begging for stuff and say what it is, what you want. Speak with authority. Right? Prayer / meditation. If you are living Ifa, then you're making your daily prayer in some kind of way. And it doesn't have to look like mine, but you're doing that daily prayer. Right? Your emotional awareness. This is how you incorporate, integrate all of this, is being emotionally aware. Knowing when you're activated. And I know we hear the word trigger a lot, but when we are triggered, right? When we are triggered, we are actually mentally, if you will, consciously not where we physically are. We're in that moment of whatever that person is doing, reminded of the thing that happened to you. Like, you're not aware that that thing is not really happening. If that makes sense. I'm sorry, Miss D.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Okay. Go ahead and mute yourself. Thank you. So when these activations come up, being aware. Because the reality is it is again, it always comes back to self. It is your responsibility to facilitate your healing, i.e., it is your responsibility to manage your activations or the things that you say that trigger you. That's your responsibility. Right? Your spiritual nourishment, how can you operate in that? Taking walks in nature, or just finding a tree and sitting there. Especially for us women, like, find that tree that you can resonate with. And begin to visualize yourself actually sitting, doing little steps, sitting on top of that tree where you can see out. Right? This is how we get to integrate this bliss into our lives and into the work that we do. And finally, authentic living. Again, that goes back to the question that we asked earlier. Are you practicing or are you living? So if we're doing authentic living, we allow ourselves to be honest about what's coming up for us, how we're feeling about certain things. Right? We're making sure that the decisions that we are making are in alignment with what we say that we want in our lives. What is it that you really want? When you say you want to initiate into the mothers, when you say you want to learn to astral travel, what the hell does that mean? What is it that you really want? Why? Why? That why is important because it all has consequences. Just say it. Right? And if you're confused, check with the elder women that are around you. Ladies, it's time for us, and I hope this is not a judgment, but it's time for us to put aside our pride and really begin to connect and ask the questions, how do I show up better? Right? And honoring our intuition. Honoring our intuition. Honoring the beauty of being woman. Honoring that. So now we're gonna get ready to close out this conversation, this session. So about the things that you can do to integrate, right? Remember, it's meditation, breath work, gratitude, forgiveness, walking in nature, or running, whichever, but intentions, honoring our intuition. You do these things, right? And you can begin to integrate this into your life where you won't have such a, I don't like that word too much, but struggle, if you will, complication with connecting with the mothers, right? We're connecting with each other, being able to show up to do the work. Right? So here's the thing. You do not need permission to become aligned with your truth. Your spirit already knows the way. The goal is not perfection. The goal is remembrance. Every moment of awareness brings you back home to yourself. Every moment, every step, every check-in, it brings you back to yourself. And the beautiful thing to all of it, you get to choose what that looks like. And you have the support of the mothers. Now, what that support gonna look like, that's up to you and them. Because as Dr. Shatoya mentioned, how are you showing up? So at this juncture, are there any questions? I want to thank everyone for hanging in here with me, for being a part of the conversation. And I hope that this helps, right? Because I think it's important for us to have practical ways of doing this work for personal growth, right? And so with that, I am complete. And just remember, this is a remembrance. This is an activation, calling you back to yourself and owning the beautiful, imperfected you. right? You get to choose.
Yeah.
Bang, Bob.
Yeah, I want to thank you. I wanted to say a couple of things real quickly.
Yes, sir.
My takeaway from this, which is really fundamental to Ifa and the whole unique approach to spiritual progress we make, every moment's a choice between being authentic and saving face. And most of us have grown up believing that saving face is the noble choice. It's not. Saving face is guaranteed self-sabotage. And that flies in such contradiction to the whole purpose of life. You know, I don't know if I'm going to go into this, but I've joked about various people who are spiritual influencers in America nowadays, people you wouldn't necessarily expect. And I've noticed every one that I've mentioned over the years also shows up on Epstein's list. So we're engaged in a level of self-deception that I think is non-productive, you know. I was actually fussed at you yesterday, Iya. Did you know that?
Fussed at me?
Oh my, yeah. You went to the hospital and you didn't tell me. It's like, what the hell? That ain't right. You know, you can be tough, but you've
Wait, that's my fault. She actually told me.
That's whoever's fault
She didn't contact. It's her daughter contacted me. She couldn't
I see. All right.
contact. And then I told you, I did tell you. So it wasn't that there was help from you, because I did tell you last night she was in the hospital.
My point is, the first thing you do is when you get sick, you turn to the closest person to you. You say, notify the family so they can pray for me. Hello? I mean, what the hell are we doing here? So let's get that part of it straight. Jeez.
So y'all please.
What'd you say? Say that again?
I love you.
Yeah, all right. So the other thing is I want you to be thinking about I really feel the need to sponsor God, this is so I don't know how to say this because it's going to come out wrong. I would very much like to see the women get together by themselves and do stuff. I've been hoping for that for a long time. Certainly none of my business, but with this series, we have the opportunity to at least throw out some suggestions, I would hope. And I'd like to take advantage of that. Also, we're going to do one more conversation next week on metaphysics and then do a deep dive into, okay, now how do we actually do this? I've been hearing people confused about that. It's a legitimate question. So I'd like to see some effort in that. I do think I might give a really like a 10-minute talk on how to make offering to the mothers, because that's necessary for both the men and the women. And it's like the easiest and most direct and in many ways most effective method of communication. But I would also like to see, Iyami, like Ifa itself, is a communal effort. So I would really, really be heartened to see women who are in driving distance of each other figure out some way they can come together to start to practice the communal elements of Iyami ritual, which are very distinct, very easy actually, but necessary for a group. You can't play baseball with one person. It's kind of like that. So I'm hopeful that'll all happen. Also, at the end of the series, I've got about 8 elder mothers I'm going to ask to come and join us in a communal conversation, including the Oba. If you've never spoken with the Oba, that's going to be a moment not to miss for sure. So in the meantime, everybody stay safe. Our country has reached the point of a dictatorship. We're no longer a democracy, and it's making incredible challenges to survival. So we need to really watch out for each other. People in the current administration are saying that the problem with this country is that people are too empathetic. Really? Really? That's the best you can do. So we need to, embrace empathy, explore it, and make it who we are, despite the foolishness of people that don't know better. So with that,
Baba, I want to real quickly,
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I would suggest people to sign up and try to get with Chief for her Bliss class, for her Bliss program. It's an excellent program, and you should invest in it to. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, it is a beautiful program and help you to be able to guide you through some very tough spots. And she worked very hard to build it and make it what it is. And it was through her own experiences that she was able to do that. So I'm recommending that if you get an opportunity, you actually invest in taking her Bliss course.
Yes, listen, and I'm going to co-sign that for a very specific reason. People come to initiation and they think, oh, I'll get initiated by Baba, and when I go back home, I'll have no more problems. No, that's not going to happen. Sorry. Never promise that. That's not part of the process. You can go home with tools to fix your problems, but you will not go home with the problems fixed. So the issue of how to use those tools becomes an element in your training. The things that Iya is talking about today are what we would call psychological problems, and they require psychological attention. You're not going to fix wounding as a child from abuse by me sprinkling juju dust on your head. Not going to happen. So the only way you can fix it is to fix it. And she's offering us a pathway to fixing some deeply traumatic experiences, but she's doing it in the context of Ifa. There's certain things that we understand and believe in Ifa related to ancestors and spirits that are not dealt with in Western psychology. And in my experience, that makes Western psychology profoundly ineffective. So we have a real opportunity to, I don't believe we can practice Ifa effectively until we get both feet on the path of elevation. And to do that requires stepping outside the pain of childhood trauma, and more importantly and more difficult, and we'll get to this issue eventually, you have to step outside the confusion of deliberate social conditioning. There's just so many self-destructive stereotypes that people in this country see as a positive character trait that do nothing but keep us wounded, isolated, in pain, and dependent on guidance from the few who control the many. And until we start to see that, practicing Ifa is, in my opinion, a waste of time. So we need to look at some of the deeper issues, and I want to thank actually both Chief and Iya Pele for having the patience and really the courage to stick their foot in the river of that process, because dealing with those two issues is the hardest thing you'll do as a human being. End of discussion, end of story. Whatever is third to best on that list isn't even close. So, your choice is to deal with it and experience bliss, or to ignore it and watch everything get harder as you get older, because as you get older, it does become harder to hold on to your illusions. So thank you. Everybody stay safe. We'll figure out how to move forward when we're through with the series. The course on Ifa ritual is still available. It'll be available forever, I hope. But it's $670. I'm giving a $175 discount to anybody that takes it before the end of the year. Inbox me and I'll give you the discount code, and you'll be able to get a discount. The course, which is 24 lectures also includes a 500-page reference book. I want everybody who takes the course to feel like they can start initiating other people. We need to start doing that for each other to get through the chaos that we're experiencing. And we need to do it for each other without charging $20, $30, $40, $50,000 for rituals that are fundamentally ineffective. So our family has an opportunity here to do some things, and I'm grateful. Ashe. Call it a day. Anybody
Anybody
Want
has
to say
any other
anything?
comments?
want to know where we're at? You listen, for those that don't know, Monica interviews me every Friday on YouTube. And every Friday I go on a rant and think, okay, I need to change the subject and talk about something less controversial. But so far that hasn't happened. I've asked her to post those rants on the Egbe page, and you can all have a good laugh, but hopefully you'll learn a few things in the process. So thank you, Monica.
Ashe. Ashe. And the YouTube channel?
Can you
Name?
write it on the chat room there? Yeah. Was she able to do that? Not
I
yet.
think she did it earlier. So there it goes.
Oh, here it is. Yes, yes. It's the Genesis Detroit. And I see some people making strange faces. Yeah, asked me permission to do that before we started, so we're all good.
We all good. And we are everyone. What you got, Bob?
No, that was it. I was just going to say, take care, stay safe, know that you're loved and appreciated. We'll talk again.
Ashe. Adabo, everyone.
Adabo.
Recording stopped.
Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better. Just know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. Your energy. That's right. Only you can make the change. Shine your head at you. Shine so bright from darkness to from darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way.